No.
So, Quentin Tarantino, if you haven't heard, is is on the hot seat. Big time on the hot seat. He's said some things. To be fair, he said them in 2003. Don't want to say that he said them just recently.
So 15 years ago.
He made some really, really offensive, bad comments in 2003. It was in reference to Roman Polanski, and his raping of a woman, or his raping of to have the, I want to actually use the exact name, Miss Geimer, if that's how you pronounce it. And he was accused, and I believe he was convicted of rape. And Geimer was 13 at the time, and Quentin Tarantino's comments about it. He had a conversation with Howard Stern in 2003 where he basically said that wasn't rape. She wanted it. It was statutory rape because she wanted it and she was young. So being young was bad, but she wanted it. So therefore, and so that came out recently, and he is just getting,
oh my God,
like End of Troy dragged.
Ugh, cringe.
Now, he apologized for it. He's since apologized for it.
Okay.
And his apology was, hey, I was completely wrong about what I said. She was raped. It was wrong for me to assume or even say that. I was saying that to be provocative. I was saying that I was playing devil's advocate, and I was wrong. So with all that, and that's not the only thing that happened with Quentin Tarantino this week. It's like other stuff related to Uma Thurman about him spitting on her and choking her during a movie. That's even separate, but just focusing on this. This came out after that. So he's like literally had waves of controversy. What are your initial thoughts on what I just said to you about a director we both like or have enjoyed his movies very much? But what would be your thoughts on that? You have no thoughts.
Oh man. That's bad, man. That's bad. Initial thoughts are, oh my God, his career is pretty much over. He better apologize for this.
I think he canceled 2 tours so far.
I think he should have.
Yeah.
Man, that's bad. So she was 13 years old.
Yeah, she was 13 and she was raped.
Back then, he was arguing that it wasn't rape because she wanted it.
Correct. He said she wanted it.
Despite the fact she was 13.
Right, I can read you the quote. Like, literally, there's a quote.
He was a grown man.
Here's what he said. She wanted to have it. He didn't rape a 13-year-old. It was statutory rape. That's not quite the same thing. He had sex with a minor, all
Why
right.
are you arguing semantics?
Yeah.
This is not like a time to be arguing semantics.
Exactly. That's my point. He said he had sex with a minor, all right. That's not rape. To me, when you use the word rape, you're talking about violent throwing them down. Now, do you agree with that?
That is not the definition of rape. You don't have to violently throw someone down for it to be rape.
Right. He's thinking that rape is like, it's like saying, oh, I'm not racist. I'm not a part of the KKK.
Yeah.
Essentially, right?
I'm not the extreme.
Right.
What you're thinking of, the most extreme
like I'm
thing
on Law
you're
and
thinking
Order.
of. Yeah.
Right.
But so I'm not technically that. Yeah. I'm not racist. I just don't like black people being around me or in my house.
Right.
Or near me. Yeah. Or any of my family members. And if they come around, I might hurt them.
You might not be a member of the Klan, but I mean, yeah.
you might as well.
But in this case, what he says is very much false. It's not rooted in anything. You could be raped. You could be raped without being like literally tied down and beaten to a pulp.
Yeah.
You could be raped. You could be coerced into sex in such a way that is rape.
You can be definitely coerced into sex when you're a 13-year-old girl.
Absolutely.
And a grown man.
Right.
I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here.
Right.
It's a bit infuriating.
But it's frustrating.
That is very frustrating.
It's frustrating because he's in a position of power. Mm-hmm. Essentially, he's in Hollywood. He's a director. It's not like he's a governor or something like that. But he's in a position of power, and what it makes me think about is, did Howard Stern protest to what he said on his show? There was no social backlash at that time. This was 14 years ago, not like today. But I just think about this woman, young girl, like had to endure this, and then to hear that spoken of in that way, so recklessly, just for the sake of being provocative. Mm-hmm. When people have no problem, like, tearing into people for things that they're passionate about.
Here's another thing. He said he was playing devil's advocate, which means that Howard Stern probably was arguing against that. I mean, to play devil's advocate would imply
True, that's a good point.
You're arguing against someone else's view.
I don't know. I haven't actually heard the audio. I just read the quote. The audio doesn't exist anymore, apparently. The video is no longer available.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, no, it's no longer available. They got it striked from the guild or whatever.
Yeah.
Wherever they hide all that stuff.
They better.
But my thing is...
It's rough, man.
My thing is, man, like... There's a lot of people who think this way. Because I imagine a lot of people who are saying, well, why are you getting all crazy on Quentin Tarantino? It can't all be, oh, he apologized. Because I think that's fair if he apologized. And it's not just that he says, I'm sorry I said it. But he says, you know what? Not only am I sorry I said it, but what I said was absolutely wrong. This is the truth. She was. And I can rock with that apology. But there are people who are more than certainly defending what he said originally. Saying, no, it's true. Like,
yeah.
13-year-old, she probably did want it. And what does that matter? Even let's say she did. That's still a child. That's still horrendous, right? Like
she's a child, yeah.
And the likelihood that she did, I doubt that. But I'm saying even if she did, you don't speak about it in that way.
No,
because she's a child.
Yeah,
she hasn't I'm pretty sure
understand
exactly. It's like kids like
where were her parents, nigga?
That's a good point.
Where were her parents?
That's a good point.
Because I would kill someone.
Someone
would be dead. I don't care who you are. I'd kill you.
Yeah. I think that's deserving.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a kid, but I imagine if I did and that happened to...
Yeah.
Or even just someone I know.
That happened to your kid, I'd kill someone.
Yeah, even and not even someone I'm super close to, that's a given, but even somebody who I was just like, kind of like, if friends of mine from Trinity, who I'm not like day ones
super
with,
close with, yeah.
I would be like, man, I want to hurt that person.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
That's crazy. But what do you think of his apology, though?
So what was his apology again? I'm sorry.
So I could read it. It's all written out. It's in a paragraph.
I think the blood pressure shot to my skull.
Oh, really?
You read the original.
Yeah. No, it's bad.
And everything else was blanked out.
It's bad also considering what we know about Quentin Tarantino. It doesn't help that we know him to be a guy who produces movies that are very gruesome, that depict a lot of racial issues, and you start to wonder whether, like, some of that deviance that he shows in his movies is reflective of his personality. So it makes it a little difficult. It's not like...
And he was beating on Uma Thurman, or that was something else, too?
There was something where something that came out where Uma Thurman came out and basically... Not even that. Where she was told to do a scene in a car, and she's not a stunt driver. She felt uncomfortable with it, and she ended up crashing the car and being seriously injured, to the point where she still carries those injuries today, and it was because Tarantino told her to do it. And she saw that as a form of getting back at her, like that he was trying to get back at her for something she had previously said about him. And then she mentioned that he would be the one choking her in choking scenes for Kill Bill, and then he would be spitting on her. And she just said that although it was acting, although it was movie, it felt abusive. And I would argue, absolutely.
Well, it's because it is.
How is that? Especially considering the context of what she was saying prior, like everything that was happening prior.
You're having relational issues with someone, and then they're in scenes where they're choking and spitting on you, and it feels kind of real.
Yeah, it's not just a game.
It's probably real. Yeah, I would assume that that's real, and that's a pretty bad indication of certain things within his character. Just that alone. Even if you didn't go for the quote, you were just like, hey, this dude is spitting and choking people that he doesn't like. That's a problem.
That's the first thing I heard. I'm reading that on Twitter, and then the next day, literally, he said something about a 13-year-old girl, about, she wasn't raped. This was his apology. I want to publicly apologize to Samantha Geimer. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing Geimer correctly. It's just, I imagine that would be the only way. Okay. For my cavalier remarks on the Howard Stern show, speculating about her and the crime that was committed against her. 15 years later, I realized how wrong I was. Miss Geimer was raped by Roman Polanski. When Howard brought up Polanski, I incorrectly played devil's advocate in the debate for the sake of being provocative. I didn't take Mrs. Geimer's feelings into consideration, and for that I'm truly sorry. So, Miss Geimer, I was ignorant and insensitive, and above all, incorrect. I am sorry, Samantha. Quentin Tarantino. Your initial thoughts?
That's it?
That's his apology. You don't like it? Didn't do anything for you? I mean, I think
sure, he hit all the points, I guess.
We'll never know if he's genuine.
Never know if he's genuine, but, like, there should be more to it.
What would you describe as more? It
shouldn't just be an apology like, oh, I'm sorry that I said this about you, and I made assumptions about you, and this is what happened. You know, I was playing a game, I was playing devil's advocate. I'm sorry that I was so cavalier in my thoughts and what I said. It should be far more in depth. I don't quite know what that caused you, and I'd like to somehow fix that, or somehow approach that differently. I think, if anything, I saw a quote on Twitter. Actually, that's why I pulled out my phone, by a Christina Edmondson. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering her name.
It was a response to another.
It was a response to another separate post, but somebody posted something that was very insensitive. I think that it was out of context. They posted it, but it came across very negative. It shed very negative light on a very serious subject. And people were very offended by it. They took issue with it. There was a problem with it. And one of her response was, "You need to delete it, apologize in writing, taking full ownership. This isn't intentions versus impact. It's acknowledging your impact and not trying to explain your intentions. It's repent and repair. This includes asking for examples of harm and practical ways to address such a thing in your format, where you're at." I mean, he is like a top of the line director. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't just like I was joking with some of my buddies and what I said doesn't really affect anybody. This is something that's said in a public format.
Right.
That about a 13-year-old girl who was raped by this man.
100%.
Like, it should be more than just an apology 15 years later. A statement that comes out on the news. "I'm sorry that I said these things about you and was playing a game when talking about you and made cavalier thoughts about you." And it's a statement, and that's it. There needs to be more. And what that is, I don't know, because I'm not the ultimate judge there.
I think more would come later.
Absolutely.
More would come after the statement.
This is a very minimal first step. I think that there needs to be more that follows it. Also, addressing the choking and spitting on Uma Thurman, because
I don't think that's been addressed at all. I don't know what happened with that. I'm actually not as well versed on that part. I just saw the Polanski thing. But what do you think? What do you think about the mob? What I call the mob mentality here, like. So what the tweeter said is correct in a sense. I would say it is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, sometimes it feels like if someone says something that offends a group of people, like, it's almost like people are just coming for their head, and unless they literally jump through hoops, they will never ever be redeemed. Nothing they could say will ever be redeemed or anything like that. Or sometimes it just feels like, I don't know, maybe this is insensitive because it's not an issue I particularly am passionate about, but sometimes it just feels like petty. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, it just feels like, why are you so outraged about how this person came across, to the point that you're gonna like come at them as if they have basically, like, as if you are on the verge of changing your mind about their entire character altogether. But at the same time, I'm saying this so that I can have some pushback, because, perhaps it's because I'm not super passionate about it. If someone came out and made a comment about Cuba or about something positive regarding Fidel Castro, I probably would be very fervent and be very critical of whatever apology they gave. So, and I imagine I would be, probably. But at the same time, how do you address the issue of a huge group of people? Let's say an accusation comes out against somebody, and yes, there is like this conversation about sexual assault, this conversation about rape. I think guys should take a back seat to it, in my opinion. I think we should probably listen more. Societally, I don't think I do a bad job at that, but I'm saying, like, with society, we should listen. We shouldn't be the foremost voices on this, I don't think, because...
You mean like me and you?
No, men.
Or like just men?
I don't know that men should be the foremost voices on this, because for the most part, men have been the... Perpetrators in this. Not to say that is all, because there are people who seriously think men cannot be victims of sexual abuse, and that is 100% false.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just sexual abuse from other men, which is very common. Sexual abuse from women, very common. And there's a stigma about that, in which you're saying, what? That's not sexual abuse. That's like, I wish I had your childhood. Are you kidding me? Like, your babysitter was like doing this to you. I wish that happened to me. Even Drake says it in a song. Knew I was a man at the age of 6. Like,
had a baby girl that used to babysit.
Nice. I even effed a girl who used to babysit.
But he said that was years later on some crazy stuff.
That's right.
He did make the indication.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. But there, I've heard people. The reason I thought of that.
No, it does.
I've heard people talk about, man, I've been having sex since I was 6 or 8 years old. I'm like, you are probably traumatized somewhere deep in your subconscious. You probably have tons of issues relationally.
Yeah. You don't understand what was happening.
Exactly. You were sexually abused, and men are glorifying this because men are often deemed as sexually, as sexually charged. Like, only that's all that drives them. So I guess I would say, like, to finish this, I would say I only struggle with it in so much that we're not consistent, and at least I want us, before we attack something, a concept, someone says something, just to breathe for a second, like, to think critically through it, to think, like, is what they're saying evil? Is what they're saying wrong? Yes. Okay. Now, how do I approach that thinking critically, thinking logically, not just responding with what everybody does?
Or just immediate emotion.
Immediate emotion, because if a guy comes out and he's accused of rape, and that's it, that's all you get. You see this a lot with particularly people who are accused of a crime. Their mugshot is put out there and they're accused of a crime. They've not had their day in court. They're innocent until proven guilty. But forever, the person that saw that mugshot and saw person was arrested, that person's a criminal. False. They're not a criminal. They have yet to be proven guilty. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that we should say, that all those accusations are probably false, because that's going on the other side and being overly passive.
Have a balance.
I'm saying, like, literally critically think. Don't jump to decide what happened before you know.
Yeah.
Because then you run the risk of either being passive towards people who have been abused, or being a part of a mob after a head of somebody who genuinely was innocent.
Who could possibly be genuinely
innocent.
Yeah.
There are cases where they are innocent. There are cases where they aren't. What I'm saying is, you could either attack a person who was truly abused and now you're saying they were lying and be wrong in that, or you can attack somebody who, God forbid, may not have done this, or may not have done it to that extent, and now, do you understand what I'm saying?
I want to talk to you about something else too. Yeah.
About what?
That reminds me of another subject that we can definitely talk about.
All right. Well, we can end this segment off. I guess my last statements would be, Tarantino was absolutely wrong,
100%.
But I'm glad that he apologized the way he did and recognizing that what he said was wrong, and I hope that he pursues reconciliation with that girl and does something to make it right with her personally. That would be justice, in my opinion.
Yeah, or at least proper repentance, because reconciliation doesn't demand anything on her.
Agreed.
It's nothing on her part.
Agreed.
Let's make that clear, because I think people.
No, she doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, that's.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for rocking with us. We really appreciate it.
If you like what you saw, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that notification bell so you can get updates as to when we're posting.
Be sure to comment below, and we'll see you guys next week.